Hey, I'm Marina.
And I'm Emily.
And I've seen everything in the Sex and the City empire 10,000 times.
And I'm starting fresh.
So I'll be woman-splaining the show.
And I'm along for the ride.
But there's a twist. We're starting with And Just Like That and working our way back to the beginning.
So in other words, we're watching it backwards and in high heels.
This is City and the Sex. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our very first episode. Woo!
Of City and the Sex. Here we go. Here we go,
City
Marina.
And the Sex. See, you're professional. You said the title. I just tried to sound like a bad carnival barker. So
it's okay. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to be the producer, and you're here to be the carnival barker.
That's like my archetype. You know how some people are like hero or princess. I'm carnival barker.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Yeah. See, Marina and I did improv together once upon a time. And you start to learn what people's types are, what people's vibes are. And it was like, we need a loud character to throw a wrench in everyone's plan. Let's get Marina to get on stage.
Yeah, that was definitely my vibe. I feel you were very good at Mole Woman. You were very good at like person with lore that we were never going to get the full lore of.
Mysterious.
But, like, you wanted a whole television show about. But we're here because, like our intro said, but truly, to be honest, I've been watching And Just Like That, and I feel that I'm the only person watching And Just Like That. As I do in all things, I just roped Emily into it. Emily, who has never seen anything, although you have seen a couple things. So why don't you talk to us about the Sex and the City exposure you have had?
Yes. So I'm coming in. I basically came in completely cold at first. Like I didn't know anything about Sex and the City. And what I really mean by that is like I knew who Carrie Bradshaw was and I knew who Sarah Jessica Parker was. But otherwise it was like gun to my head. I couldn't tell you whose name was who on this. Like that's how complete blank slate I was coming into this. And then my first exposure to Sex and the City media franchise, whatever, was actually the pilot for And Just Like That. Which when I say that, a lot of people get an uncomfortable look on their face, like, oh, I'm so sorry. Or they sort of cringe. And that was my experience with it, was like, okay, I'm going to get together. I was watching it with a bunch of other people who were fans of the show. I knew what was going on. And I can only describe the vibe in the room as like distress or like anguish. Like that was my experience, was watching this show that I have a lot of opinions about and we're going to talk about. And everyone around me saying things to me like, it's not like this. It's not supposed to be like this. Like it's just increasing levels of anguish. There was a lot of laughter and a lot of confused laughter. I felt people were amused, but also in pain. And so I left that feeling like, I don't really know what to make of this franchise based on what I just witnessed. I also only saw the show with like 3 of them. So I didn't even know what everyone was talking about. Samantha a lot, obviously, but how her absence was such a big part of the pilot. But I'm sitting here being like, I can't keep up with this show. This is already like really oppressive to me just watching this pilot.
So you've never seen like any sort of clip from the original show?
No.
Wow.
I think I've seen things show up in terms of what's like, I'm online, I'm on Twitter. Like I'll occasionally see people put like screenshots of like that moment where Samantha's posting the picture of some guy on a pole and the policewoman is like, you can't do that here. And she says, I caught him like eating another woman's pussy. And the policewoman says, carry on, ma'am. I've seen that like scene on Twitter. It makes the rounds all the time. I've seen funkiest tasting spunk all the time. Is this a great way to start, by the way? Is just going right into the funkiest tasting spunk and pussy lines? Is this appropriate to start with?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what Sex and the City used to be before it became the shell of a man that it is now. But I think it says a lot that the few semblances you do have from the original show are Samantha based. And we are going to slog through weeks and weeks of no Samantha, which is going to be...
Okay.
You're going to have to hold out for that. When you get that, it's going to feel like a climactic mountain rush.
It really is.
Is that good? Well, on that note, let's get into the Samantha-less slog that is season 2 of And Just Like That. Emily, you're finally here. How does it feel?
I feel overwhelmed. I'm a little intimidated that I have signed on to this project. We'll have to watch the rest of this. I'm not gonna lie. Look, I just want to say my reaction to this. We watch. I can say we watch like 2 episodes at a time to sort of like for our behind the scenes process here. When I finished episode 1, I'm getting ready for episode 2. I did have to look up how many episodes were left in the season because I did have this moment of like, ooh, I don't know if I can like get through this. I have so much to talk about, but also like it was kind of exciting because I don't follow the show or the characters. I just follow like I've seen the discourse. I've seen people talk about this show and they say things like this show is unlike anything I've seen, or they'll say like this is a train wreck. I also can't look away. You know what I mean? I've seen it, but I didn't really understand it. Now I feel like I understand what people are talking about because this isn't like a there are TV shows out there that are bad and you like hate watch them, or they're bad, but they know that they're kind of bad. And so they like lean into it and have fun with it. This is not like either of those. This is like some other third thing that I'm going to find out what it is and identify it, but it is unlike anything I have ever seen before. So to answer your question, I'm overwhelmed, but I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
I would say my one word is, I was going to say fatigued, but I don't even think that's true, but that's what I'll stick to for now, which was like, it was really hard because, like I just watched season 2 essentially. So to go back to the start of season 2, I was like, oh God, like I really tried to purge. Like I was like so excited. I was like, oh, this will be so much fun. And then I was like, oh, but I actually have to physically do it. Because I have to say, viewing it a second time, I think it wasn't too bad. I definitely had syndrome of like when you do a roller coaster once and you're like, that was bad. And then you do it again and you're like, oh, okay, it wasn't so bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like once you get like
Okay. You would
exposed to
say
something,
your opinion improved watching
my
it twice?
opinion did not improve.
Okay.
It just, I think, was less jarring. I think when
Okay.
I watched season
Okay.
2, I would like be frequently jarred by scenes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
watching it a second time, it was like an old friend. I was like, oh, she's just like this.
Right.
And you know,
This
I
is
was
just
like,
her thing.
oh, this is her thing. And
Yeah.
so I would
Okay.
say it didn't get better. I think I understood it more.
You've built up
I
a tolerance to it.
Yeah, I've also been listening to the writers' podcast, and I
Mhm.
feel that their propaganda is working on me. So maybe that's what's
Okay.
happening. All right, well, let's dive straight into season 2, just like that, episode 1. This episode is titled Met Cute, which is a play on Meet Cute
Oh,
and the
it's
Met
the Met.
Ball.
I got it. The Met Ball, right? Which is the Met Gala of this show. I'm no, we're just started, but I have a question right off the bat. I
Go.
don't understand how famous Carrie is or any of these people. Like I can understand that they're rich clearly, but it's like the fact that we have these invites and that's the premise of this episode is going to the Met Gala. There's like shots of people taking pictures of them. I don't really understand. Can you explain who she is in this universe? I thought she was just like a reporter or something, like a columnist. I didn't realize she like is a celebrity.
So I'll say 2 things, which is Carrie Bradshaw is based on Candace Bushnell, who is a real live woman who was kind of like an it girl in the 90s and had a sex column that she published into a book. And so Carrie is based on this real life woman. So that's her like fame, I guess, is like probably like someone you or I would know, but like in middle America, she's not like on like Rihanna's level where you're like, oh, it's Rihanna. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it
She's
would
not.
be, it would,
Yeah.
she's like a New York insider. It's kind of like Fran
Okay.
Lebowitz kind of level,
Yeah. Okay. Sort of
you know,
New
like a
York
glam.
media elite.
Yeah, like a glam Fran Lebowitz in terms of like,
Okay.
kind of like,
Thank you for that. That's great measurement of like fame is a glam
yeah,
friendly poets. Got it.
honestly, I would do anything to be that.
Honestly, goals.
That's exactly what I want to be when I grow up. But so she's like, you see what I mean? She's like,
Yeah.
she's
Okay.
famous to elite people, but she's not like elite. Everybody
Right.
else is not like famous in any way, shape, or form, except I guess LTW, who's kind of like this documentarian. But even her, it's not like she's on like a world stage, especially because as we go on in the season, you'll hear like her career is like just taking off kind of thing. So she's not like a big time hotshot. I think they just have money.
Right.
And this show explains a lot by they just have money.
Okay. Okay, sure.
That's
Which
a
I'm fine
fun.
with. All right. I can understand that. Yeah. So they all
Um,
were invited to this thing because they're Carrie's friends?
Yeah, I forget I think one of them says that one of them bought a table. I think LTW bought the table because her husband's a finance bro. So again, finance bros
Okay.
can just buy monies at the tables at the Met Gala, which again, this whole thing, we're not even into the episode, but just like the general frame. First of all, I'm bothered that it's Met Ball because I'm like, is Met Gala trademarked? Like, can you not say that? Why does it have to be? Why can't, like, if you and I were going to McDonald's in a TV show, we would just say McDonald's. We wouldn't say like McDangles. You know what I mean? It's just
Right.
so
It might
weird.
be a copyright thing. It might be one of those things where it's like if they had to say Met Gala, then they would have to say the theme and then like that dates it. You know what I mean? Or something like that. There might be some sort of weird IP law around this or IP rule about this that I don't understand. But yeah.
I just think it's kind of weird. I think it's weirder that it's like a Met Ball. And then I also think it's so weird that there's this like upstairs, downstairs dynamic to the Met Ball
Oh, you
where
mean
like,
the stairs where they're like the stairs are for the famous people.
yeah, the stairs are for the famous people. Like we walk in the back entrance, like, excuse me, I've seen the behind the clips of Anna Wintour with all the tables charts
Okay.
in
Okay.
her office, like
Yeah.
moving people's names around. Like Anna Wintour knows every single person attending the Met Gala. There's
Mm.
no way you're just like going in the back and like getting a table. Not to mention tables are tens of thousands of dollars. So it's not just like, to your point, yeah, it's like they're not famous enough to be there. And then it's like, what is this like? Oh, we're just going to go through the back. Like, it's just so odd. I
Right.
feel like
Maybe
I,
that's why they had to make it the Met Ball is because they have to make all these rules to like introduce these problems for them. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's just like, and not cutting ahead, but it's the same thing with the real deal in episode 2. It's like, why not just say the real? I get it. I think you know what I think it is?
Mm.
I think after, spoiler alert, but you definitely know this,
Yes.
after they
I
killed
know what
big
you're
on
gonna say.
Peloton,
Yeah. Yes.
companies and brands like did
That's
not want to
true.
be associated with their shit.
That's
And so
true.
I think Met Gala was like, yeah, you can reference us so long as like no one dies there and you call it something different.
Yes. I'm sure. Yeah. They probably had that discussion where it's like, give it a new name. Here are the rules you can say about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're 100%
So
right.
we open the episode, and I just want to talk about the opening because that involves
Okay.
everybody, which
Mm.
is kind of this opening sex montage where we see everybody having sex. And I just want to call it out first for two things. First of all, you can tell that this season is trying so hard to be an answer to season 1. Like this season is
Okay.
directly trying to confront some of the criticism that season 1 got. So one of the main criticisms that season 1 got is like, where is the sex? There is no sex. And so
Interesting.
I laughed out loud when I watched this the first time because even though I think it's actually great, like I think it's
Mhm.
fun to see everybody like,
Right.
have sex in their
We
way.
love a good sex montage.
We love a good sex montage, like big fan. It just made me laugh because I was like, oh, they're telling me, not to be worried that there'll be sex this time. I was like,
Right.
okay.
That is very funny. That it like it did feel I didn't have that context, which makes it much funnier. But like when it first started, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm watching Sex in the City. You know what I mean? It's like,
Exactly.
it's like
Exactly.
I guess this is just how every episode begins. Like so that is actually really funny. I love that they just like jump to it. I also want to say like so they're playing Tiny Dancer. It's like a remix of Tiny Dancer.
It's like the
Yes.
Elton John
Like
Dua Lipa like remix, I think.
right, exactly. The one. They're playing that while this montage is happening. And I just want to say my last bullet point in my notes after watching episode 2, which has Tony Danza featuring in it a lot, I have a bullet point that says, Hold me closer, Tony Danza. ask Marina if this is anything. Marina, is that anything? Can we do something with that?
I think that is a Friends reference.
Hold Me Closer, Tony Danza?
I shit you not. I think it's a joke on Friends where
They
Phoebe
make this
thinks
exact joke.
they make this exact joke. Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't know what to do with this information. This two-parter, this 1-2 punch of episode 1 and 2 is secretly a very veiled reference to this Friends episode where Phoebe makes the Tony Danza joke.
The Tony
So
Danza
that's
joke.
really what's going on.
The last thing I'll say about the open, which is
Yeah.
just like an aside for me, is like it was wild to have finished season 2, go back, start at the beginning, and be like, how is this the same season of television? Like,
Really?
so many characters, people, places, things change, come in, whatever. I was like watching this opening montage, and I was like, 50% of the people in this montage are no longer in the show.
Really?
Like,
Oh my God.
not really, that's an exaggeration, but I was
Okay.
sitting there like, damn, it's crazy how much of this is like irrelevant by episode 4.
That's wild. I mean, that makes me very excited for what's going to come. When you say that when you phrased it like that, my mind was like, is this like Game of Thrones where half of them are going to like be killed off by the end of the season? I was like, what does that mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Now
There's a
I'm,
red
now I'm
wedding.
excited. Now I'm very excited. I will say though, that is a little disappointing though, because I really appreciate this opening montage because for me, I was like, oh, this is so helpful. It's teaching me who's important in this show. And now I know who I'm supposed to pay attention to. So actually, now that I think about it, it's maybe a bummer that I'm about to lose all of these people. But it was helpful in that moment to like learn who's with who and who do I need to know about.
Exactly. Okay, so I want to start with Carrie's plot line.
All right.
So Carrie is hooking up with her podcast producer. I refuse to learn his name.
I wrote down his name, if that is helpful. I said, Carrie's boyfriend is named Franklin, like the turtle.
I know, again, it does not match him. The name Franklin like does not match him. I literally kept being like, it's Gabriel from MI7, and that's the plot that I'm
Oh my
going
God,
with.
it is!
He looks identical to the Gabriel character from Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning
That's
Part
really
1.
funny. It's his
And I was
vibe.
like, and honestly, like that's cool, and that's what he should be.
He should, yeah, that's where he should end up after this show.
So they have
in a Mission Impossible. Honestly, a lot of the men in this show have very sort of like Mission Impossible villain vibes. I think it's because it's all very sort of like older gentlemen,
with
sort of
money.
like salt and pepper hair. Yes, with money. There's a kind of, all right, I see you. That was the vibe I got. They're all Mission Impossible villains.
Yes, first of all, I love that, and we should keep that going. And second of all, I choose to give him that identity. They have sex and then they talk about cooking shows. When I first watched this episode the first time, I was like, it was so jarring to like see beef. I don't know.
That was what upset you. There's so many jarring things in this show, and that was what set you off, is that there's beef on screen.
For some reason, the beef on screen, I was like, ugh, ew. I was like, they just had sex. I was very like my mom about it, where I was like, that's not right. Like, you know.
Yeah, you're like, this is improper postcoital behavior. It's to like look at meat. All right, no, I love this about you. I'm going to learn what makes you ick over the course of this show. But we can add that to the list of things that disturbed me for these episodes.
It makes me absolutely ick. I do love her I Heart New York Times sweatshirt. I do want that sweatshirt. And here too, we get introduced at this top scene to the whole Met Ball concept. And then going ahead with Carrie's plot line, essentially she's kind of mixed on how she feels about Gabriel from MI7. She's kind of like, I just want it to be a Thursday thing. So she has this walk and talk with Charlotte, which I just wanted to flag to you because you and I have watched the And Just Like That documentary together, and you saw our old friend in that scene.
Yes, I did. I have a note, big capital letters. It's the hat. Is that
the hat?
That's the hat. Okay. Would you like to explain, or should I explain what the hat is to our listeners who are not aware, in case there's anyone out there who did not watch the documentary, but I know there's not many of you.
Because everyone watched the documentary.
Yeah.
But because I know literally no one, even fans of Sex and the City, did, essentially they made a documentary for season 1, and it's basically fluff until SJP, Sarah Jessica Parker, finds this hat in Paris that they're shooting the last Paris scenes at the end of season 1, and she finds this hat and she falls in love with it and she wants to wear it for this scene. And then Michael Patrick King explains that they can't for continuity reasons. So he forces her to take it off. And she has a full-blown fucking meltdown about not being able to wear the hat, how she feels incomplete as a person without the hat. The costume designer, Molly Rogers, writes a poem about how Michael Patrick King is a hat killer.
And also that we will find his body underneath the stage.
Exactly. Yeah. Rotting.
And there's shots of her from other days on other sets where she's still talking about this hat. And I also want to just like clarify too, as you said, this comes at the very end. It's so out of left field because the rest of it, like as Marina said, is fluff and is also SJP kind of dictating what's happening. It's like her and Michael Patrick King just like on the same wavelength all the time. And then the minute this happens, she's like, she takes it so personally and she's like, I just feel really upset because of like who it came from and like who is doing this to me. Like it's fascinating to watch the crumbling of the partnership. It's great drama. It's drama.
High key drama. And when I saw the hat the first time, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the fact that it's in the second scene or something.
Yeah.
It's like
she fought for that. That also means she was pissed the whole time. Like even when the season had wrapped and they were doing promo and they were releasing it and they were doing podcasts and interviews, she was thinking about that hat.
She was thinking about the hat. She went to that first costume meeting for season 2 and said, when are we getting the hat? She probably tried to get the hat in the sex scene because she was like, it's got to be the first thing.
It's gonna be
I guarantee you that their heads are both so up their asses that they thought like people are dying to see this hat.
Yeah, well, the fans are clamoring. Okay, this was for us. And by us, I don't actually mean the fans. I mean specifically Marina and I. This scene was for us because we watched the documentary and we care a lot about this hat now.
But they have a walk and talk. I do love Charlotte playing through the different characters where she's like, I'll be Samantha and I'll be Miranda. Like I thought that was really cute and a good moment from Charlotte.
Charlotte is like easily the most likable person on this show so far. I find everyone honestly pretty insufferable, but like Charlotte is not only sufferable, but I actually enjoy watching her scenes. I actually think that they're fine, and I like Kristen Davis.
Wow, I am stunned because this is a great Emily moment, which is essentially where we keep a running list of things that Emily will find out later on as we watch the series. Charlotte is what many have deemed to be the most insufferable character.
No, really? Oh my God, no, you cannot do this to me. Marina, she is the only reason I can watch this show. Are you kidding me?
I'm fucking gagged right now.
You cannot take her from me. She is the only person I can watch. Oh my God.
So, I mean, we haven't seen Samantha, right? So like put that aside for later, but it's incredible to me that you watch the show and you're like, Charlotte's the best. I think that's such like a magical vaginal birth moment of just like, wow, no one else would have said that literally ever because everybody fucking shits on Charlotte all the time. They find her to be the most like annoying and irritating person.
Is that for like her Sex and the City character or is that like of this show?
It's of the whole arc, I would say. I don't think she started as the most insufferable, but over time she became the more insufferable person that like a lot of people love to rag on. Like it's so funny, like when I would talk about season 1 with people, they would be like, you know, they'd be like, oh, and Carrie is like this now and that doesn't make sense, and Miranda's like this and it doesn't make sense, and then they'd be like, and Charlotte, well, she's still annoying, so I guess she's still true to her character.
Right.
Like,
I will say also, in defense of my defense of Charlotte, I will say it's like, I also don't think she's sufferable in the way of like, oh, she seems cool and I'd be friends with her. Like she's annoying, like that's her character. But it's like, I'm entertained by the ways in which she's annoying. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm entertained by watching her be this person like bumbling through everything. And like, she's trying her best, I guess, but she's like kind of an idiot and kind of annoying, but like, it's fun to watch her. So I also want to say, I wasn't like, oh, Charlotte's really relatable and I love her. But I think I liked watching her because for me, her plot lines were the fun ones to watch. And now I'm really upset that I don't even have that to look forward to. And now I'm afraid. You have brought fear back. I spent the last 48 hours calming myself down after watching this show, and you have brought fear back into me. And my heart is beating so fast right now. What do you mean? Okay.
I will say I think this season's very good for her. I think this is the first time in a long time where I've been like, wow, Charlotte's storyline is like interesting and engaging. And I don't want to spoil anything, but for a long time, people have deemed her to be the insufferable one. So I love that for you. I want you to be a Charlotte fan for the rest of your life.
Oh God, I'm so scared.
It's so funny to me. It's literally the opposite from like what the people say at the barbecue, so to speak. You know, at the proverbial barbecue. So that is amazing. But anyway,
right, continuing.
Continuing on, to kind of wrap up Carrie's main plot line, which is what she meets with Bobby Lee, who's in this show famously.
Right.
They have that little scene where we learn that his girlfriend or wife, I forget, wife, are going to be, she's going to be designing Carrie's outfit for the Met Ball. We see Carrie do her podcast, which is a call-in podcast where people like call in and ask for advice from her, and then she gives advice, which I think makes sense being that she's a columnist, but her advice is really bad. That was my big takeaway this time. What is it? The person's like,
okay. So I did write this down. So the person's question, also the questions suck. Like this podcast, I'm sorry, it sounds like it sucks. Like it's like someone calls in and leaves a voicemail that's literally, "Hi Carrie, oh my God, I love your show. So I'm seeing this guy, and so far it's pretty casual, but how do I know when he's ready to take things to the next level? Okay, thanks, love you, bye." And then that's it. Like no other information, which like, first of all, not even in a regular like print column would you get that little information. Like, I feel like when people say that on Reddit, even the commenters will be like, "Can you tell us more, please?" Like, hello. Like, so she gives him nothing. And then Carrie's advice is, well, you know, she thinks about it for a minute and then she's like, "Well, when he's ready, he'll show you and he'll step it up in his way. Hope that helps." It's like useless information for a person that is like, again, an award-winning glam Fran Lebowitz.
Yeah. Also, I don't know why it seemed like she had a gun to her head. You know what I mean? The way she answered was like and I think, let me like back up by saying, I think Sarah Jessica Parker is a great like actress. Like, I don't think she's bad at acting. I think she's very talented and is great as Carrie and like turns a performance. There was just something in the way that the advice came out where she kind of did this thing where she was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to say, but I guess I'll just say like, he'll come out in his own way. Like, it was just like a little bit too kind of like, I don't know. That made me feel like, is somebody holding a gun to Carrie's head? Like, you will answer these people in this podcast.
Right. You will answer the voicemail. I agree. I think that was the read of it, was like, she doesn't really have advice for this person and also doesn't really want to give it. And like, you know what? I'll give her this one. I don't blame her. It was a dumb question. And it's a dumb one. Like, she just doesn't seem interested in it. This also leads me to another question that I had about the mysterious world of like, who is Carrie Bradshaw? I don't really understand why she's a podcaster, because like, from what I have seen, maybe I'm getting confused also with Sarah Jessica Parker as a person and what we've seen in the documentary. From what I've seen, it would just make so much more sense if she were an influencer. And like, because she's so about fashion, and it's like, why aren't you just like trying to like have all these fashion outfits? You love doing all these like photos and dressing up in these kooky outfits, making that your image. And then your like little blurbs of writing and like nuggets of wisdom are in your like Instagram caption.
Wow. First of all, it's really interesting on two levels. First of all, let me answer the first question, which is, why is it a podcast? Because Michael Patrick King thought, to update Sex and the City, we'll make it a podcast, period. So that's why it's a podcast. It's because it's an updated version of a column is a podcast. And then they just like didn't really do much with it, which is criminal. Well, first of all, I don't think this podcast is the worst idea in the world that they have. Like, I do think it's fitting with sex columnists, but like, yeah, it does seem like she would be more of like an Instagram girly for sure. There's this weird thing in the show where as the show becomes more and more about fashion, Carrie never was about fashion. So it's like a thing that's never like diegetic. So nobody ever is like, wow, Carrie, that outfit. It's just like what Carrie's wearing. So like it's like the show is known for the fashion, and Carrie like likes like certain labels and shoes, and she works for Vogue at a certain point in the original show, and like she knows like, you know, the different designers and stuff like that, although she really only cares about shoes canonically.
Okay.
So it's this weird thing where like Sarah Jessica and the show care about fashion, but Carrie doesn't. But because Sarah Jessica and Carrie have like become one, you would think, why doesn't she just make the fashion her thing? But that's like, why not, is because like it's kind of like a thing that's not acknowledged in the universe, in the Sex and the City cinematic universe, that like Carrie's putting together these outfits, kind of, if that makes sense.
That's so interesting to me, because I absolutely, at least from what this little I've seen, would not have guessed at all. It feels like such a central part of her character, like in-universe character, that I'm like, how do they not comment on it? Or how has this not always been a part of it? Like her closet is such a big part of it. And we should talk about this later, but like her outfits from the previous show are so important and referenced a lot. And we'll talk about that there. It just feels like such a big in-universe part of her character that actually really surprises me.
But speaking of fashion, we get to kind of wrap up Carrie's plot after we see her terrible podcast is essentially her dress is a failure. It's made too small by Bobby Lee's wife's seamstress, and then she gets the stomach flu, and then they hire another seamstress, she gets the stomach flu, and then I guess they just stopped after trying to hire two seamstresses. So Bobby Lee's wife tries to get the gown to work, and it doesn't work, and
it's like a disaster.
Yeah, and also I have to say the dress is ugly in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hideous. I'm sorry. Like it looks very much like, this is my senior project dress. Like it absolutely is not. It's not nearly like a professional sort of like grade. This is supposed to be an up and coming designer outfit. It's certainly not something you'd wear to the Met Gala or Met Ball. I don't know what this was about. This was very like my first seamstress project.
Yeah, it did seem like again, for Met Gala level, it did seem a lot to trust this woman who can't find a reliable seamstress.
No, who seems wildly unprofessional and does not have anything ready to go. Yeah, and you'd think would have fitted her in the outfit before the morning of.
Yeah.
Questionable.
I also love the heart-to-heart that Carrie has with Bobby Lee, where Bobby Lee just says, well, men have feelings too, so you can't just drag around Gabriel from MI7.
It's word for word, he says that. It's
word
crazy.
For word,
because he doesn't even know MI7's out yet. I also thought that was a weird line, because she's asking him about this issue of like, as Marina had talked about before, she wants to see him on Thursdays, but doesn't want anything more from him. And like, how does she sort of like go about that? He has weird advice where he says something like, Carrie, it's 2023. Men don't want to be objectified. They have feelings. And I was like, this was the first in a long running theme that we're going to have where the writers will say something about like, Carrie, these are the times. And then they say an absurd thing that like doesn't make sense or is not an actual sign of the times.
Yeah.
Like, what about what she was asking for is objectifying the guy? Also, like, there's no discourse that has happened over it's 2023. We can't have relationships just for sex anymore. That's certainly not true. Like, there's nothing also objectifying about it. That's literally just one person, an adult, saying, here's what I want out of this, and communicating that. And then the other adult saying, I either want that or I don't. That is like, that has not changed. So I don't really know what Bobby Lee is talking about. And I want to put a note on this, because this is going to be a theme and it's going to be a pattern of comments that I'm going to file under what we're going to call Emily's conspiracy theory. And my conspiracy theory is the writers for the show are put into cryogenic sleep after Sex and the City and have woken up several years later, sent out by HBO to go write this show. And they do not know how this world works. It's like, so much of this show is written by people who like are trying to figure out how humans interact in the year 2023, and they are like, do not understand and have not been around like since 1990.
I think for classically, like I feel that with this show, seeing sex for women of a certain age, I think is innately interesting. I think the premise that this show was sold on is innately interesting. I just wish that the writers kind of stuck to their lane. I honestly feel like maybe that's why the Charlotte stuff works for you, because for me, the Charlotte stuff is the most like, I'm an adult mother with these adult problems and my kids' problems. Although the kids' problems are absurd, and we can get to that later. But
Yeah.
it's like, so it's like, I feel that Charlotte is grounded in a lot of the writers and producers' reality. Whereas these other characters, you know, they have to kind of like come up with what it is. And famously, the writer's room, everything that you see in the show was inspired by or happened to one of the writers in real life. So I'm not saying that they're like making it up, but it's like very disjointed because they kind of get to pick and choose like the things of these times. And then when you get to pick and choose, it's like, well, what are we saying? It's very much a very sloppy collage. I agree.
Yes. Absolutely. And it's like, I can totally believe that perhaps someone in the writer's room had a situation like this where, you know, they wanted to have a relationship that was just sex or was very casual and like maybe didn't know how to go about it, whatever. I don't believe that another human being said to them, Michael, whatever his name is, whatever the writer's name is, Matrick Pat Pikel King. I don't think another human being said to him, Michael, it's 2023. Men don't want to be objectified. Like, that is not a thing another human being has said.
I feel like they were like, we need to say that men are different from the 90s when all men were just trying to fuck. What we're trying to say now is like, men are like more aware and they're connecting to their feelings and like not all men. And I'm like, this show, it's like there's too much in every episode to just quickly make a statement about not all men in the middle of it and then just like move on.
And again, it's like, it's not like that's not true. Like, sure, not all men, and we talk more about men's feelings, but not in the context of what Carrie's talking about, which is like, I want a relationship with sex, and that's it. They don't seem to know how A relates to B. It's like they woke up from their cryogenic sleep. They got a big pile of flashcards saying men have feelings now. Women want relationships with just sex now. Okay, got it. We're gonna put them together, and then just wrote this episode. Yeah.
But essentially, Carrie's plotline ends with they give up on this horrific second grade project that they've tried to put on her for 3 hours, and she pulls out the classic Vivienne Westwood wedding dress. Writers, according to the Writers Podcast and Michael Patrick King, this whole episode was devised so that Carrie could be back in this dress. They said, how do we get Carrie to get the wedding dress back on? And then they said, well, what is like an event where you could get a dress back on? The Met Gala, and literally devised this whole episode so she could get back in the habit and be in the gown one more time for the fans, because the fans want to see it.
I just love the way you ended that speech with the angriest silence.
Just a pregnant pause.
Yeah, and just little. Okay, so what really pisses me off about this was going to be another thing I asked you, where I was like, am I missing some context? Because she puts on the outfit, she comes down the stairs, and the episode ends with her saying, and just like that, I repurposed my pain. It's the ending that would fit to a totally different episode. It's like, I have not seen anything in this episode that led to this moment and led to that conclusion of, and I repurposed my pain. That just has not been a thing we've been talking about. That we have not been talking about weddings or Carrie's feelings about weddings, like the pain. It hasn't been talking about Carrie avoiding pain. There hasn't been anything thematic in this episode that would lead to that as like the button at the end. And the bridal gown is like the only reason for it to be appropriate is because in the beginning they mentioned that it's like veiled beauty or whatever. So that's why it like fits the theme. But like there was a million ways we could have gotten here besides like she has a crazy seamstress that is like not good at her job and needs to have a veiled outfit on short notice.
You know, it's so interesting that you say that because again, you know, season 1, no spoilers, is all with dealing with Big's death, right? So it's her losing the love of her life. And no spoiler, but spoiler, obviously this dress was intended for Big. I won't say how that ends up or why or anything, but you know, it's Big related. So I think they're trying to make an assumption like, well, you know, Carrie's been dealing with his death, so it's hard. But I totally agree. I'm like, wouldn't this have been stronger as an episode if she got invited to the Met Gala and was like, oh, like, fuck, like, I don't know anyone. And then someone was like, oh, why don't you pull something from your closet? She was like, well, I only have this one dress. And then she kind of like has to maybe meditate on like whether to wear the
Yeah.
dress or not, or like
Yeah.
it makes her feel weird. And then like for one reason or another, she's like inspired to put it back on. I don't know. Like, I just feel like to your point, like I guess they think we automatically are like, she's still sad from the Big's death, but the overall arc of the episode, I think it's such a beautiful, and just like that, like repurpose my pain, I think is such a lovely like quote to put above your TV. But you're right. The dress does come out of nowhere, and it is an Easter egg for fans. But when I saw it, I was like, it just gave me that ick that you get from people's moms when they're like, "I can still fit in my wedding dress," and you're like, "Okay, sounds good."
I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad we went on this escapade so that you could show us you fit in this dress.
I also can't wait for you to see the dress's original scene. Remember this dress.
Okay.
Remember this dress for your life.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I will say it was kind of funny because I don't have that context. And she's like, wait, I do have something. And I was like, yeah, of course she does. She's going to have like some crazy dress for her. And she goes over to some like shoebox and she opens up what looks like a blue feather thing. I obviously did not click that this was a bridal, you know, because I was like, oh, okay. She like, of course, she like has some blue feathers lying around that have a veil, I guess. And that's how this episode is ending. And it was only when she like said that line and she's coming down where it's a light bulb went off in my brain. Kind of like you said, it's like, we're kind of expecting the audience to do the work. A light bulb went off. I was like, oh, I'm sure this is supposed to be the wedding. I got it. Now I got it. But at first it was kind of funny. I was like, all right, I guess we end with like a Mrs. Peacock outfit.
Of course.
It had no meaning to me, right? It had no like emotional beat.
Well, it had no emotional beat for me either. Okay, so, to go over all 300 other plot lines that are really quick ones. And then I want to end on Miranda because Miranda, I think, is the bigger, like the Che and Miranda one is the bigger one. But just to go through all the 17 other ones, we have Seema is trying to choose between the man or the Met, which I hate because you would just go to the Met.
Like, obviously. What kind of decision is this?
I know. I hate it. I do have to say though that Seema can only wear kind of two outfits. I'm noticing on second watch. She's either head to toe in white, which is amazing and I love, or she's head to toe in what my mom would call animalia, which is like she wears a cheetah print top, cheetah print pants, cheetah print headscarf, cheetah print purse. Snake purse, snake top, snake shoes, snake headscarf, snake, like, you know what I mean? She's always like, it's like the whole outfit is the one like pattern or whatever. And it's just interesting now to clock it every time. She's either in all white or all animalia.
All right, now I'm going to keep an eye out for the animalia.
Keep an eye out. And yeah, then she goes to the dinner with her this new guy. I called him Rando guy because I was like, ugh. And then
yeah, it's fair.
He meets his European wife, or they're both European, I don't know. And the wife is like, he still lives with me. And at that, I was like, check, please.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have done something as dramatic as march out and be like, this is disgusting, I'm going to the Met. I mean, first of all, I wouldn't have been there in the first place. I would have been at the Met Gala. And then, you know, secondly, I think her response was like intense, but I also would have been like, okay, thank you so much for like coming out to lunch. It's so nice to meet you. Hey sir, why don't you deal with your problem and I'm gonna go live my life? Because like you've got some stuff going on and I have some animalia going on and this can't happen right now.
Go on. I do love the way she just was like, looked at her phone, got up and left. It's like, that is a boss move. Boss move. Not even like, we don't even get like a comedy beat of like, you live with your ex-wife, gotta go. Like, she just gets
literally bailed. She just slammed that button. Yeah, parachute. All right.
I don't know how I feel about her harem pant look that she wears to the Met. I don't like the big ugly necklace, the big fucking black square necklace. I think if without the necklace, I think I'm into it. She also kind of looks, is giving me Julie Andrews in Princess Diaries 2 when she surfs down the mattresses. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
I think she's giving that, but beige.
That but beige. Well,
that, but beige.
That's not like the best review, I would say, for a Met Ball outfit. Is like she's giving Met. Okay, no, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. The necklace is weird. I think it's like also because the pendant looks kind of like a phone. It's like in the shape of a phone.
Yes.
So it looks not like jewelry. It looks like an accessory. I did like the color though.
I love the color. I love the little like the headpiece. Like I'm a fan. I love that she has her own like posse that's like making social media content for her.
That was my next question. Who are those people? Is she famous? This is going to be a recurring is me asking you, is this person famous?
No, I mean she's a hot in both senses of the words, a hot real estate agent in New York. So you could say she's like maybe like a Barbara Corcoran, you know, from Shark Tank kind of vibe, but without Shark Tank. But you know what I mean?
She's a glam Barbara Corcoran.
She's a glam Barbara Corcoran. I like how anyone who's a real New Yorker, we're like, and then we're like, they're a glam version of this crusty New Yorker.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I have nothing but praise for Barbara Corcoran. Let me be clear. I love the bitch.
We stand on this podcast.
We stand Barbara Corcoran 100% girl boss. But but
I see.
So she's not. I think she just like hired her own team to take pictures of her, which again is weird, but fine. So then I want to get into Charlotte and LTW. I'm going to wrap them together because I will say, in hindsight, watching this season, I feel LTW definitely gets the most screen time of the new characters that are added to the show, being Naya, Che, LTW, and Seema. LTW definitely gets like the most plot, arguably too much plot, and like the most. She's definitely like, I feel out of those the 4 additions is definitely like the 4th character, if you will.
Okay.
Because like I color coded all the scenes so I could kind of like remember them as look at me. And I realized I was highlighting a lot of LTW and I was like, damn, she gets a lot of seats, which is like, again, love that character, but maybe some of this plot could have been spread around to the other.
Yeah, I see.
Character Carrie's like barely in this episode. But anyway, LTW has this thing where she's working at home with the kids and she checks their breath, which ew.
Yeah.
And then she has that scene with her husband where she's like, I need to get my grant money. And he's like, let me write you a check. And then they make a whole big deal out of it. And the writers,
I have a degree in documentaries or whatever she says.
I have an MFA and I will get the money myself. And, you know, I like, it goes back to your and I's original question, which is who is this show for? Because like I get nothing from seeing that.
You weren't like, yes, girl.
Yeah, I wasn't like empowered. I wasn't like, oh man, let me go get my own money. I was like, okay. I'm glad that she's like a good role model for her daughter, but I don't care.
I don't care about that.
I don't care. I care about the fact that her fucking desk is in the closet. Can we talk about that?
I know. I care that she's smelling these children's breath. Like, there was nothing particularly aspirational about what was happening.
Again, my mother wouldn't have been caught dead smelling my breath. First of all, I didn't brush my teeth, so not anywhere near the strap. Second of all, like what? And in the writers' podcast, they were like, we wanted to make it seem like realistic what it's like to work and have kids, and I was like, I appreciate that. I appreciate that on a vaginal level, but I don't care. Yeah, I also, in a general thing is like, I don't want to see anybody's kids. I see too many kids in this show. Like Charlotte's kids are okay in my view because they were in the original series. I mean, as babies, but you know, like we knew them. We heard,
Right.
like, you know, and Charlotte's a main character, so it's fine. But when the side characters start getting their side characters and their kids, and I'm like, that daughter gets what, like 2 seconds of screen time, and then like never to be seen again. But Charlotte and LTW go to their fitting where Anthony gives like 10 podcast jokes, and I was like, let the podcast die.
Who's Anthony? Wait, hang on, pause.
Anthony is Charlotte's gay best friend.
Right. Okay. Wait,
he's on the
podcast.
He like makes a podcast joke that I don't remember. And I was like, there's too much podcasting in this goddamn episode.
I got it. Okay. That's
I think the women were talking or something, and he was like, hello, I don't need this podcast. And I was like, oh God.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was like, I can't.
I want to know what podcasts are in Michael Patrick King's library. Because again,
I do want to know.
I have a lot of questions about like where his perception of the world comes from. I have my theory, the cryogenic sleep, the flashcards. We've discussed this. I want to know his podcast diet, because it is a huge part of the show, obviously. And also, I don't think he really knows what it is. He just knows it's a thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of what's in the show is what Michael Patrick King thinks is a thing.
Okay. When I ask you a question, I think that's going to be an answer a lot. Is like, well, he thinks that's.
He thought it was a thing, and it's in.
All right.
The only thing I could think from the fitting scene is, I wish I could be rich.
What, to get a fitting? Yeah, I would love to stand on a little table and have someone put pins in me. Like, that sounds great. Are you kidding?
Ideal. And then we get this like womp 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 comedy from the two of them. Charlotte's comedy is that she thought she was taking her gay best friend, but her husband thought he was coming to get a picture of Rihanna. Oh, and then at the last second, he doesn't want to come because fashion is hard. And then she takes Anthony anyway. And it was just like Seema for me, where I was like, there's no choice. You're taking your gay best friend.
Obviously.
You're not taking your husband. Sorry.
Obviously not. Also, like, this is, you know what? I feel like Charlotte, I think she's in a sitcom that none of the other people are in.
But I think there are 3 shows in this show. I think Carrie's in some sort of weird, like, semi-serious, like...
She's in what I think is the closest of what the show is supposed to be. Like, she's doing the thing of woman in her 50s, who is like moving on from her first big love and first marriage and trying to like make it work as an older woman in this changing world, as a single woman in this changing world. Like, she's the closest thing, I think, to what this show's thesis is. And we're going to talk about Miranda in a second. Yeah. And then Charlotte is in like goofy family fun time sitcom with Anthony there for the one-liners, and he has the only actual funny lines in the show. And he that is also credit not just to the writers but also to the actor, because he came to work.
He came to work. No, he turns it. I also don't like her outfit. I like that it's this like dominatrix thing, I think, but I kind of was like, okay, I don't know.
Which one, Charlotte or LTW?
Well, yeah, okay. So Charlotte's outfit I didn't like very much. LTW's outfit, too many freaking initials. LTW's outfit was my favorite.
It looked the most Met Gala appropriate.
I have a quick story about that. But what did you think about the orgasmus scene in the closet?
I have a soft spot for the person who plays her husband, because he's George Washington from Hamilton, obviously. So it's like I have a soft spot for him. I'm glad he's doing well and he's getting that check. So I was charmed by it, and his little sort of like cutting into my 8 minutes, whatever. Like, I sort of liked that. I also did like a scene where it's not a punchline, it like a woman's orgasm or like a husband giving oral sex to his wife for nothing in return is not a punchline. Do you know what I mean? Like, I sort of appreciated seeing that, you know, so I'll give it credit to that. I thought it was cute. I don't know. I didn't have any thoughts about it. What about you?
Yeah, I don't want to speak preemptively for our final segment, but I actually really like this scene. I really like the fact that she says, you cannot touch me from the waist up.
Yeah.
That's very accurate.
Yeah, exactly. This is prepared. You cannot mess with this.
you cannot mess with this. Like
Yeah.
for me, I feel like that scene like proves that sometimes they can do a good scene. You know what I mean? Like, so everything else is so clunky because they're like trying to get to a destination that they've like Pepe Sylvia like figured out with red string. And when they're not doing that and they just let characters like breathe and stuff, I'm so engaged. Like watching
Yeah.
this a second time, I was like, I have no notes. I love it. I think she has the best dress. Then we get to our favorite part of the episode, which is Miranda and Che. So famously, Miranda and Che are in LA because Che is taping their TV pilot. And how does it start? Oh, Miranda and Naya have a phone call
Yes. And she's
in the
getting a
egg.
sensory deprivation tank. I
Yes.
want to say I know of Che Diaz. Like I know of the concept of Che
I've
Diaz.
heard the myth,
Yeah.
the legend.
The legendary figure that is Che Diaz. I have heard whispers on the wind. I've seen 2 episodes now of and just like that season 2, and I'm still not completely sure what kind of person Che Diaz is. Like that's the only way I can say that. I'm a little confused because like I don't know many kind of laid back comedians who also have like a sensory deprivation tank that they like to use. And I also like don't know if I want to know more. Like the little bit I know about this person, I'm like none of this is particularly pleasant. This person doesn't seem kind to Miranda. This person doesn't seem like a very good partner. This person also seems like a kind of god awful comedian. So
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to seeing more of this character.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Please tell me
again,
they
I don't
leave.
want to spoil anything. Flag this as Oh Emily, but in like a good way, in that like Che goes on a real journey this season, and it is wild how I think, like I said at the beginning, where my theory is that season 2 is very much an answer for season 1 to the critics, and I feel
Okay.
like they thought to themselves, "We're gonna get Che right this time," and
Really?
we'll see how that goes and how you feel about how that goes, but they're trying to get Che to be right, and I feel that even upon second watch, it's missing the mark for me. When I first watched this scene, I was horrified. I was like, wow, Cynthia Nixon going full vag out of this egg. I was
Oh
like, how
yeah.
humiliating. Second viewing, I kind of love it. Second viewing, I thought it was
Yeah, you
funny.
know, I also I don't have any background reason to think this, but for some reason I'm like Cynthia Nixon either suggested this or was fully excited to be on board with this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I agree.
Like I was like I think she's having fun.
I think she was having fun. And on second viewing, I was like, this wasn't as jarring.
Yeah.
Something I was telling you about earlier is that my favorite thing to ask people with And Just Like That is, when did you drop off? Because everyone I
Mm.
talked to is like, oh, I started and then I stopped. And I love to go, well, what was it that made you stop? And it's usually a specific scene. And my coworker at work was like, when Miranda came flopping out of the egg, I turned the episode off and I never went back.
Okay.
And what's crazy is like every scene that someone has said to me, I don't want to say other scenes and spoil other scenes, but they're all accurate. There's one scene in season 1 that when we get there, I'll tell you,
Okay.
is most people's drop off point.
Well, okay. All right. I'm excited. Yeah, when we get to them, you gotta flag it for me. I'm very interested. Because I just want to like have for the record here, I would not have made it this far, period. Like like my drop off point was being first exposed to the show. Like immediately I was like, I would have turned this off. So like
I
I
would've
would love to see where people are voluntarily getting off the train.
We see Che have a fitting for their sitcom,
Yes.
Che Pasa, which again, I'd like to just rewind, go big picture for a second and say, why in the year of our Lord 2023 is a stand-up comedian hoping and praying for a multicam sitcom?
That's a really good point, honestly. Well,
Like
actually, I
the
have an answer
more
to that. And you want to know what it is? Michael Patrick King has been in cryogenic sleep since 2003,
word, 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 word.
where multicam sitcoms were still happening.
Yeah. Yes. First of all, yes. Second of all, I guess where multicam sitcoms like just instantly gave you a bunch of money. Like that's a big
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
today, is that like suddenly they have a bunch of money, and it's like, I don't think you get a lot of money when you do a pilot. Like that's the whole thing, is like people are hoping and praying that the pilot goes through to then get a bunch of money.
Mhm.
Um, but so that's ridiculous. But they have a fitting. We're introduced to this idea that, you know, they're self-conscious. It's not even introduced in a way that's good, because when we have that climactic scene between Miranda and Che, where Miranda's like, why won't you let me hold you? And Che like breaks down about how they feel insecure. It like, for
Mhm.
me on first viewing, I thought Che was joking.
Me too. I actually really did. And I think that that is a failure to me of this character, in that like everything I've seen of them up until this point indicated to me that this was like a bad joke. And
Yeah.
I can't really exactly pinpoint what about it didn't seem sincere at first until we actually see the close up on um, Sarah Ramirez's face. And like, I can see that they're getting emotional. There's like tears in their eyes. You know, it was like, oh, that is what told me that this person is being sincere. Because like, I think it's because Che's character up until that point was so not caring about kind of anything, and very detached, and seemed also very detached from like Miranda's needs, and very like disconnected from them and uncaring. So to say something that vulnerable all of a sudden, I think my instinct was that it was like insincere or mocking even. You know what I mean? Because that's what we had seen at this
Yeah.
point. We had seen Miranda at some point. I can't even believe we skimmed over this, because that shows you that this show has more to talk about than the scene. Miranda at some point is trying to put a strap on.
Yes. Oh yeah. I was going to go back to that.
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, it's like it's her first time. It's not their first time. So like, I think Miranda even says that, of like, how do I do this? That I'm a beginner, or I don't know what's happening. And then Che says, well, I'm not a beginner, so like figure it out. And it was like, that was where I was like, okay, this person is like, Jesus. Like, it was kind of horrible to watch. And then eventually, thank God, Miranda just like threw it down and grabbed and was like, I'm not doing this. I just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Well, that's what's so weird about the scene, is that she doesn't throw it down because she's like, I like, what would make sense is her like being like, I just don't get it. Instead, Che and Carrie have this conversation where Che is
Oh,
like,
right.
you can just fuck people. And Miranda's like, is that about me? Which like
Right.
comes out of nowhere. I feel like consistently with the Che Miranda plot is like, there is so much fodder here of things to explore, and they give them seconds. Their scenes are so short. They're like jam packed with information because we just got to like get to the next thing. That I think that's why when Che has that full breakdown, which again is not a diss on like Sarah Ramirez's performance of that at all. It's just like when we get there, it's like we've been moving so fast, and it's been like whoop, 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 strap on, that like
Mhm.
by the time we get there, it's like, oh whoa, I didn't know this was going to be
I think
real.
that's a very good point. And I mean, even to your point, I completely forgot that that happens, because it just goes by in a blink. Like, I really forgot that that was actually the central conflict of Miranda's plot for this episode, was that she feels like the conversation about relationships for sex was about her and Che. And I completely forgot. It just goes by so fast. Also, wait, question. Why is like Carrie calling Che for advice? Not only does Che also
Oh
have
my
trash
god.
advice, because everyone in the show apparently has trash advice about relationships, but like, what's going on there? Can you explain?
Yeah, I'm going to give you the short version because then we'll get to it. In season 1, Che, Bobby Lee, and Carrie all are on a podcast together.
Okay, right. So I knew that Che was related to the podcast somehow. I did not realize that they were at the like friend level of, can I call you for like,
No. You're right to have that thought. Because why would you ever go from coworkers to besties like that?
okay, all right.
Especially when your coworker fucks your friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That would be really weird for me.
Yeah, would you
Especially because,
yeah,
like,
if you were working with my significant other, would you call him and be like, I'm having like problems with like my relationship and like, I don't know, do you want to just like talk it over? Like, while you know that he's with me, by the way.
yeah, and you're my best friend. Yeah, no, it's super weird. I think like it's a writers podcast thing with Michael Patrick King where he's like, Carrie and Che, they had the podcast, so they're friends. And it's like, okay, but Miranda is somebody that they've known for decades. Like Carrie and Miranda have been friends for decades. So why would you not call Miranda? Like, why
Yeah.
would you call Che?
Yeah.
It just is like there's a lot of these questions where they have these Carrie Che scenes, and you're just like, I don't believe that these people are still friends.
It's interesting that you say that. It is because I know from just pop culture osmosis that these people are the best of friends, like tight knit. They sit around the brunch table, they talk all the time, they process their lives together and their adventures together. And like at the end of the day, they have each other, right? It's like it's the
Right.
group. Coming in completely blind though, in terms of like, I only know that from that. Like coming in cold into this show, not in a million years. If you put a gun to my head and you were like, who are the closest friends in everything you've seen, not in a million years would I have said Carrie, Charlotte, and Miranda are the like main three. I would not have been able to guess. I would not have been able to guess that they were the main three, and also that they're even friends. Because, like to your point, yeah, she doesn't even call Miranda. I never got the vibe that these people are close with each other at all.
I mean, I think it's not helped by the fact that Miranda's in LA for these episodes, but I do want to call out in Che's comedy that the closer is LA's so expensive. I have to Uber to my bathroom, which many people have pointed out that that's a closer. I just want to confirm that Che's comedy is bad. I think we all know
yeah. I don't know about, I didn't know of Che Diaz. I knew about the discourse around them, and I knew that people talked about how the comedy was awful. And like, boy, weren't kidding. Like, oh my God, it's horrible. It's like, it's bad in every sense. Not only is the joke not funny, it's like barely a joke. And it's like such a basic observation of things of like, did you know that LA people are crazy? They drive everywhere. Isn't that crazy? I took an Uber to my, it's like very basic level. But also, yeah, exactly like you said, that was the closer. Like, it made me mad. I think like this show, to go back to what I was saying in the beginning, when you're watching a bad show and you're having fun with it, you know what I mean? You're like, you're hate watching it, or you're sort of like along for the ride. I don't think your primary emotion is anger, right? And this show uniquely makes me feel angry.
Welcome to the fact that at least you're not a fan of the show. So you have to do this and be like, what have they done to my boy, my baby boy? Oh God, my son. I want to end this episode how we want to end all episodes, which is first, I want your release the Kraken, which is your positive thing to say about this episode. It can be a moment, it can be a character, but what is your release the Kraken?
Okay. All right. Excellent. Let's see. My release the Kraken. Oh boy, this is gonna be hard. This is gonna be hard every time, man. Because it's just so many negative emotions swirling from like this show and talking about it. I think, God, let's see. Let me actually think about this. I think my release the Kraken, honestly, is, this is weird, but LTW's outfit. Like, I think because I'm ready to see like fun outfits and stuff. And I remember when she came out in the red thing, and I had this moment of like, oh, this is fun. Like, I had fun in that moment because it was like, this is an outfit ready for the Met Gala. You know what I mean? And then there was the shot of her husband kind of like holding the train of the dress and the wind blowing it up. And I was like, this little moment I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying seeing her dressed up. I'm enjoying looking at pretty outfits. I'm a simple gal, right? And I was like, for that brief, beautiful moment, I was like, I'm having fun. This is nice. Yeah. What about you?
I think my release the Kraken was also an LTW, and I think it was the
Closet?
the cunnilingus, the closet cunnilingus.
Yeah.
I think that was really great, and it genuinely made me laugh. And I just think, yeah, both actors really play that scene well.
Yeah, they do.
I realized we should have ended on a positive note, but now I'm like, fuck it, we're gonna end on the negative note. So in this segment, we call it the get them, which is the negative thing. So what are you gonna get them for?
My get them moment. I'm sorry, it's gotta be Che. And look, there were a lot of infuriating things in this episode. Like, don't get me wrong, we've discussed a lot of them, but it's like the visceral feeling I had of thank you for your time. You've been so great. After setting me up with, I took an Uber from my living room to my bathroom and it was like the anger I felt there. That was my like, get them. I was like, enough. This show I've decided is hostile. It is hostile to me. And currently it is defeating me, but I will struggle through and I will defeat it. That is my relationship to this show going forward. And that I think was the show throwing the gauntlet is like, here is Che Diaz's comedy.
I would say my get them is something that we didn't talk about, which is Naya's 3 scenes of her
God.
like dealing with her husband. I feel like Naya's plot to me is actually one of the most interesting plots because I feel like we don't see this a lot. We don't see a lot the woman who's been with the husband forever and they disagree about kids and they split up over kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually super interesting. And I think like a woman finding herself after being married and being together with someone for so long is super interesting. And I feel that it's just like these little blips of scenes. It's just a misuse of this actress and of this character. So that for me is going to be the get them where, spoiler alert, it's not going to be fixed, but I just want to flag that now.
Okay, get that in there. That is disappointing. I'm also glad that you brought that up because the more I think about it, I'm like, yeah, she actually has the most adult, if that's the right word here, like problem of the bunch in a way that I'm actually genuinely interested in. It's not like a boring adult problem, you know. There's something here, and I'm a little disappointed to hear that this is not really, I don't know, going to develop maybe in the way that we were hoping, but all right.
Well, thank you for watching season 2, episode 1. Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you when we talk about episode 2. Bye.